Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back for another episode of the Top 10, as always, with your host, Hunt Unit 751. And as you will have seen from the intro, I have Crown Ferret, aka Irish, back again for another episode, having done the Top 10 final stages, I believe.
That is correct.
And
Also, my name is, in fact, Irish, typically. But,
yes.
you did almost screw that one up, but you got there. So good job.
Yeah, I did, didn't I? And we also have, in ghost format, again, back for a second appearance, we have Snoz hiding away in the ether. He's a Jedi ghost, maybe.
That's right,
Actually,
that's right. Thank you for letting me crash your party.
Yeah, no, it's always a pleasure when it comes to Snoz. So, we are here to do another top 10. This time, the category being top 10 surprise successes in Halo jumping. So, as the name suggests, basically any big success that you could maybe say you didn't see coming at the time based on the competitor's career. So it could be someone that either hasn't had that much success and sort of just produced a run out of nowhere, or it could be a competitor that is very well known these days, but in the early days they weren't quite so good, and then just out of nowhere produced an incredible performance. Let's just get down to business and go through the list. The 10 names that I have picked that I would consider surprise successes. In no particular order, as per usual. Tricky Cyrus's incredible breakout performance in Spartan Sasuke Tournament 20 when he made it to the last obstacle on Stage 3. Sane the Legend in Ninja Warrior of Halo Tournament 15 when he got first place. The man, Snozberries, making it to the final stage in Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 9. Back from the dead, Urban Angel's one-off appearance in Ninja Warrior of Halo Tournament 17 when he made it to the third stage. Just One Player's total victory in Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 9. BJM producing a newcomer performance to remember in Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 4. Noodles, or I believe Killamanoodle was his name at the time, making it to stage 3 in Spartan Sasuke Tournament 19. Sunnyside Splash making it to the final stage in Spartan Sasuke Tournament 22. Back when he was still called Joey Davis, making it to the third stage in Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 23. And the host turned competitor, Rog, making it to the final stage in Ninja Warrior of Halo Tournament 21. So, Irish, if you just want to give me your bottom 5, 10 through to 6.
All right. At number 10, I have Joey Davis, H&W Tournament 23. Number 9, I have Urban Angel, Ninja Warrior Halo Tournament 17. Number 8, I have Noodles in Spartan Sasuke Tournament 19. Number 7, I have BJM in Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 4. And at number 6, I have Sane in Ninja Warrior Halo Tournament 15.
That is pretty similar, actually, to my list. So, my bottom 5, I've got Noodles at 10 from Spartan Sasuke Tournament 19, BJM at 9, Urban Angel at 8, Tricky Cyrus at 7, Tricky Cyrus in Spartan Sasuke Tournament 20, and Joey from Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 23 at 6. So I think 4 of the 5 names were exactly the same
I
in
think
both of our
Tricky
bottom
was the
5s.
only one. I had
Tricky on mine and Sane on yours, I think.
Yep, that's right.
Let's start with Urban Angel. You've got him at 9, I've got him at 8. So I guess, I don't know if it's probably easier for me to sort of take the lead on this one since it was Niwa, and it's a very bizarre story around this guy. So me and Smokey were just hanging around practicing on the Tournament 17 course one day, and then this guy just out of nowhere joins the party, and then I think messages just me, Urban Angel is like, hey, do you remember me? I used to compete, back on the Halo Reach, and then the Halo 4 course. I was like, oh my god, is this actually him? Like, because I hadn't seen this guy since the beginning of Halo 4 when he ran the first tournament. And
I was going to say, my sheet had him, he only ran 7 through 10 and then missed 6 tournaments. So
yeah, so he made his debut in Tournament 7, cleared Stage 1, started the streak of newcomer successors, and then got to Stage 3, I think, in Tournament 9, and then competed in the first Halo 4 tournament in Tournament 10, and then completely disappeared off the scene. Showed up this one day and got all the way to Stage 3, got to the cliffhanger, set a personal best, and finished tied for second place in that tournament.
Wow. I think, obviously for him to miss all those tournaments and come back and do as well as he did, extremely impressive. I mean, 17 was a really tough tournament. The renewal, it felt like everyone and their long-lost brother that was really talented went down at the flying chute. Atlantic, of course, felt the jumping spider, but we won't talk too much about that. No, but it felt like it was a really tough tournament, and then Urban Angel obviously had a track record in the 4 tournaments he had ran of doing really well. So I guess as far as surprises, you go, wow, he missed all these tournaments and came back well, but at the same time you really think about it and go, he was a really good jumper at the end of Reach, and even the tournament he ran on Halo 4, he did pretty well. So again, obviously for him to come back, extremely impressive. I guess as far as like a surprise though, this wasn't as high as maybe some of the others that kind of maybe came a little bit more out of nowhere, if you get what I'm saying.
I'd have to check this, but at least 4 of his 5 appearances would have been in the top 10, maybe all 5 of his appearances.
He top 10 in all of them on my little placement sheet. He got 5th and 7, tied for 6th in Tournament 8, 2nd in Tournament 9, tied for 10th in Tournament 10, and then tied for 2nd actually in that Tournament 17. Because I think he failed the cliffhanger jump on the cliffhanger.
Pretty consistent though, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, back in those days when, the rules were different, the courses were different on Halo Reach and stuff like that. That's, that's pretty impressive. Let's look at Noodles. So, I can't remember off the top of my head if he was called Killer Manoodle when he did this run. He was called Killer Manoodle. So, he so confuses me, this guy, because I had him on the when I did the 100 competitors stream, and I think I rated him reasonably well, but it seemed like he just had a brief period in jumping where he just popped off. Like, he cleared Stage 1 on my course, and then he gets all the way to Stage 3 on Rog's course, and then that's pretty much it in terms of his success in Halo jumping. And now he's obviously long gone. I couldn't remember the last time I saw him run a course. But
I'll tell you the last one I can think of, unless there's a ROG tournament recently that I can think of. But he was Noodle Wares, and he ran tournament 15 of my course. I kind of, when he was around though, I kind of considered him similar to like a Chris, another person that we don't see as much as we used to. But Chris and him kind of were very similar, where they seemed to do a lot of their practice on jump maps, and so we kept hearing hey, this guy's really good, he just needs to kind of get an opportunity and he's going to do really well. And so sure enough, the Spartan Sasuke tournament, he clears Stage 1 and then he's kind of off to the races. And obviously Cliffhanger is a very respectable tournament, and good on him getting that far. But as far as surprise, like I said, it's similar to a Chris situation where you go, oh, Chris has not had success on a course, and then he suddenly does really well. And it's yeah, well, Chris is a really good jumper, and it was probably a long time coming, and he's put the work in, and it wasn't really as much of a surprise, I guess. I mean, again, that's the category we're rating it on, and I guess I wasn't all that stunned to see Noodles on Stage 3, at least at some point. So I guess I'm always more surprised by how he did kind of disappear. It seemed like that was, maybe the start of something in my eyes, and then he's kind of just, gone off into the sunset after that. He's ran basically no courses in the last, 3 years since that run. So
It is
Yeah.
kind of interesting though that you can have some of the best jumpers on the hardest jump maps, but sometimes they just don't translate into these tournaments for success, right?
I don't actually think I knew that little backstory about like him doing lots of different jump maps. Um, but I think I judged it based on the fact that he had that great run on Rog's course and then never really delivered anything else. Like I know he cleared stage one, but like he never got anywhere close to that success on any other course. So it was almost like a one-hit wonder in a way.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
that makes sense.
that tournament had 17. I think it was a 17-8-1-0 was the numbers, and so it's like there's a lot of good runs, that get kind of swept under the rug. Like for example, Crown Ferret 19 getting his first stage one clear in that tournament. It's like not many people think about stuff like that. So
Yeah.
no, I kid. I think just in general, like that tournament was so loaded top to bottom, and obviously kind of the emotion of it. At the time we thought it was the last Halo 5 tournament, and it's like we're going to make the big jump, and kind of all the history, the milestones set in that tournament, finally getting to see the final stage. Like there's just a lot of moments in that tournament. It's easy to kind of forget runs like that or other people that had success that there's a lot of things to kind of pick and choose from that tournament.
Okay, I think you sort of just said it in your explanation of Noodles is of why you ranked Noodles where you did. Is that part of why you've put Joey at the bottom of your list? His Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 23 run.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I kind of looked at the full career trajectory of Joey. Joey's really the only one that kind of had maybe a little bit of expectation from courses outside of maybe the big three, right? So you think about he shows up, he runs H&W 22, or I guess he ran yours first, so sorry, I'm going reverse, bad order.
Yeah.
So he shows up and runs Ninja Warrior Halo Tournament 22, then he shows up and runs H&W Tournament 22, and he fails the first obstacle. A few months later, he runs Rogs, and he does better. I think he gets, like, fifth obstacle, something like that.
Second to last obstacle, or something like that.
I
maybe it was the fifth obstacle.
I think he failed the mix and match. I can double check if I need to.
No,
but we just talked about how there's so many runs memorable in Tournament 19, and then, look at that. Joey runs and does decently well, and we can't remember it. So, no, I kid. I think just in general, though, the work he put in from what would that have been? From March or April of 2020, when Tournament 22 happened, to December 2020, where Tournament 23 happened, it was just he was a completely different jumper. Just with the runs he was putting up on different courses, he was starting to find his footing, clear a bunch of chumpy stage ones. That was when he wasn't maybe as good at my course yet, but some of these other courses, he was just continually practicing them, getting better, and again, he wasn't the jumper at that time that he is now, but at that time, that was kind of the big, stepping stone of can Joey now start doing this on the big courses, and sure enough, that was the stepping stone for it. That said,
and that's the challenge of doing these lists, right? You can't look at the jumper today. You have to think of what you thought of the jumper at that time, right?
Yeah, and to be honest with
because
you,
obviously, if you thought about Joey now, he wouldn't even be on the list, right?
And to be honest with you, thinking about the top jumpers before that tournament and seeing that course, it definitely was not Smokey's hardest tournament. I know I failed stage one, so I should have done better, but that's besides the point. But Joey was definitely one of those people that I was looking at practice and just kind of the way he was, peaking at that point. I was like, okay, Joey could totally get to stage 3 in this tournament, and it wouldn't surprise me that much. And sure enough, he did. So, as far as surprise successes, you look at all the other factors. That's why I put it at the bottom, I guess.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think, I guess the only thing I can say based on the reasoning why I put him at 6 is just on any course, any competitor, you don't get many examples of a guy going from failing the first obstacle, well, in the case of my course, failing the first jump, but obviously in the case of Smokey's failing the first obstacle, to then getting to stage 3. I mean, even these days, doesn't has it happened since? I'm not sure. I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty. I think it's just a pretty cool thing, and as you say, it's it's the start of Joey's story, I guess, in a way.
Can agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I think that leaves us with BJM, is both in our bottom 5.
Yep.
You've got him at 7, I put him at 9.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he had a lot of. I mean, I think he was one of the people that finished like tied for second, so I think he failed like the flying bar in that one. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I was just looking that up, so just to be sure. No, but like that was kind of the era of Smokey's course where it felt like there was a lot of different people that could be successful. Like it's definitely very different to how it is now, where it feels like you got to be one of the best of the best and put the work in to get a clear in a course. Again, not shortchanging anyone that did clear one of those courses. It's just it's a different world now, and so when you really look at the course that he did get to stage 3 and to stage 3 on, first of all, it's a great run. Not discounting that, but it's definitely as far as like, you know, it could have been BGM, it could have been a lot of different people.
So for quick context, for any viewers that don't know, BJM is and still holds the record for the best newcomer performance on from any newcomer in a Smoky tournament.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure the only, at least out of the big 3, the only runs that can top that is Buddy on Rog's course and Ree on my course. I think is the only 2, unless I've missed someone really obvious, the only 2 other runs that where a newcomer performance got further than that. I wouldn't necessarily, even though I've put him lower on my list than Irish put him on his list, I wouldn't necessarily discredit him for saying like, because yeah, the course was definitely easier, but certainly in that tournament, I and several other veterans couldn't deliver the performance that he did, and he managed to pull it off. I wouldn't discredit him because of the course maybe being a little bit easier than it is these days. I just think the fact that a guy like him can just come out of nowhere, put in a performance like that, and then only do one other run, get to stage 3 again, and then disappear. Imagine like what he could have done if he'd stuck around for a little bit longer.
Yeah, really.
Which I guess then it kind of depends on your definition of, you know, surprise successes, right? Because as far as like somebody that, you know, before the tournament, like, you know, people you've heard of, BJM is a newcomer. You wouldn't have penciled him in as a last obstacle stage 3. So from that perspective, you really go, wow, that's incredible. Like, that really surprised me. But then you kind of look at, you know, some of the other factors, you know, like the, you know, like we said, you know, the course was, you know, it obviously it took people out, but it was definitely accessible, doable, and just, I just lagged out of the game. Oh, no.
Oh, his dead body.
Undone.
That's all right. I'm in.
I'm
in now.
Now because he's highlighted it, I'm going to have to stare at his body until it disappears.
Darn.
Yeah. Anyway, you were saying? Carry on.
No, but it is definitely a little bit dependent on your definition of, you know, surprise success. In that regard, like I said, it's definitely not as much of a surprise as some of the others on the list.
I think when we're all said and done, the order will be a little different, but I have a feeling the bottom 5 and the top 5 is going to be a little more similar than you think for all of us, probably.
I think the only other thing I would say on this then, as a sort of semi comparison, is if a modern BJM happened nowadays, just, you know, a guy that we didn't know about just came into the community, that was legit, obviously, and got to the last obstacle of stage 3 on any course, pretty much. It doesn't have to be one of the big 3. It could be any course. Probably we'd be talking about that run for quite a long time in terms of... So...
Yeah, like if someone walked in and no one really knew who he was and he got first place.
Well, it doesn't have to be first place.
I was going to say
getting to the last obstacle of stage 3 on any
that
course
would be
on
great.
your first appearance.
Yeah, and no one knew who he was. That'd be insane right now, especially with the difficulty these courses are at now. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Irish is back on his feet and back just in time to give us his top 5.
Oh boy, this is exciting. All right, number 5, I got Sunny, Spartan Sasuke 22. 4, Cyrus, Tournament 20 of Rogs. 3, I got Rog, Ninja War Halo 21. 2, I got Jop, H&W Tournament 9. Number 1, Snoz, H&W Tournament 9.
Oh, ha 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 ha. Okay. So my top 5 is also Sunny at number 5.
Ooh.
Snaz at number 4. Sane at number 3. Rog number 2. And Jop at number 1.
Okay, interesting.
Okay. So let's go Cyrus. Let's go for Cyrus. I put him at 7 on my list. You have him at 4.
Yeah. I think reevaluating, I probably could have maybe bumped him down a little lower. But Cyrus is one of those guys, like, now obviously Cyrus is one of the, top competitors, but like then he seemed like somebody that, had been around for not a ton of time, but he had been around enough, but like he hadn't really pulled off any runs of any significance on any course. Like, I don't know how many stage 1s he had even beaten to that point. And it couldn't have been many, but for him to go out and then get all the way to the last obstacle of stage 3, with the difficulty of that course, obviously I know like 5 people got to the last obstacle in that tournament, but it was definitely a very impressive performance, and kind of the way he did it, he kind of had his own way. He just had another couple moments where he really didn't let the moment get to him. It was pretty impressive for considering where he was in his jumping career at that point, to get as far as he did and almost get to the final was pretty wild.
I'm not sure if he'd had 3 appearances prior to that.
He debuted in 18.
Okay, 2 appearances. Didn't clear stage 1 in either of his first 2 appearances. To then break out and get all the way to the last jump of stage 3. So he could have pulled the Snoz. He was 1 jump from pulling a Snoz.
Wow.
Going from never clearing stage 1 to getting to the final stage. The difference being obviously that he came up short on the final jump of stage 3. But yeah, I guess in some ways it's similar to Joey. Joey's career, they've both started off slow and then had a huge upturn. I guess Tricky's was just that little bit of a bigger spike in terms of that first success.
Yeah. I got the timeline for you if you want it.
Yeah, why not?
So Spartan Sasuke 20 happened in October of 2021. At that point, Chumpy's course was, Chumpy's was between, or Chumpy's tournament 12 was basically in the middle of going on. That was when he was, doing the downsizing of his tournament or whatever. I was at tournament 13, so he had done diddly squat on my course. And Flames was only on tournament 6 because his course started in the middle.
Oh wow! I didn't realize.
So Cyrus, I don't
later.
think had cleared stage 1 on Flames until like tournament 8 or 9. Like it wasn't. It took a while for Cyrus to get it clear on Flames, and really, his total victory on Flames. Not to go too far off the beaten track, but his total victory on Flames wasn't really super expected. He didn't have really any super impressive runs on Flames to where it really looked like a total victory.
No, well,
was coming.
Well,
yeah, it's true.
That's exactly why I asked about it, because to me, at that time, Flames course was considered a beast. What you're going to see in most of these, right, Hunter, is that most of these are their first big successes, because that's usually when you're going to be the most shocked at their success, when they haven't done it yet, right? Like, even though Flames impressive, but Tricky's after doing Rogs, you're not totally shocked, right? Because he's already done something, right?
Yeah. I have a question actually that might actually transition quite nicely into the next name. What was it that put Tricky failing the last jump of stage 3 above? What put him higher on your list than Sunny, who got to the final stage? You've obviously put him at 5 on your. Oh, actually, I put him at 5 as well.
Yeah.
But what put him lower than Tricky on your list?
So I won't lie, to peel back the curtain, I was there for Fireball's run in 22. and he does the final stage, and we're like, oh man, Fireball, great tournament. Like we all thought it was first place. And Rod goes, actually, we gotta get one more guy to do a final stage picture, and he wasn't on. So like Rod dresses up like him, and we go, holy cow, he just dressed up like Sunnyside Splash. Now at that point, I'm pretty sure it was either his debut or his second tournament in Tournament 21. I think it was his second appearance. I didn't do enough research on that, but
I think I don't quote me this for certain, Rog. If you watch this, I'll know you've watched it because you'll comment on this. I think he debuted in 20, failed stage 1, failed the third obstacle stage 3 in tournament 21. So debuted in 20, got to stage 3, failed the third obstacle in 21, and then got to the final stage in 22.
He failed the mix and match in tournament 20, and that was his debut. So then he failed the curtain cling 21, and then got to the final in 22. To be honest with you, to be honest with you, if Sonny didn't have the success he had in 21, I think it would be near, if not at the top of the list. But to be honest with you, like we saw Sonny in the tournament prior, how well he did. Obviously, he took a huge step forward to go from the third obstacle, the third stage, to beating the entire thing. That said, it wasn't like, a complete like pipe dream out of nowhere. Like he proved he could get to stage 3 in literally the tournament prior. Obviously, it's a huge step to go from a stage 3 to a final stage. But again, it wasn't like he wasn't on the radar to say. It definitely surprised us when we saw that he was the guy to do it, considering some of the other people that were prominent jumpers at the time that didn't pull it off. At the same time, though, it's just kind of the way Rog's course was at the end of Halo 5. There's a ton of people that could do it. A bunch of people got one crack at the final, and that was that,
Yeah, I think when I did my picks, I think the way I ended up looking at it was just the fact that if you think all of the people in that final tournament, to be fair, there were a lot of great runs in that final tournament, specifically the people that got to stage 3.
Yeah.
And the fact that the likes of Smokey, Flame, Petrillo, Tricky, Weapon Matt, I'm trying to think who else, Vulcan, I'm trying to think of anyone else that got to stage 3. All those people couldn't do it, or couldn't get to the final stage, and Sonny, of all the people, did manage to do it. I think it was just, I couldn't believe it when I was watching the tournament, and for that I had to give him huge credit, and obviously, as Irish has done, put him in the top 5. I think we're going to have to discuss my man, Sane the Legend.
Sane.
So okay, I'll take the lead and say I will admit a teeny tiny, obviously a little bit of bias because people will say, oh, it's my course, so I'm going to put him a little bit higher. I'm obviously extremely close to Sane, and probably over time I appreciate this run even more than like when it happened. The amount of time and hours and maps that he created and other maps that he played and jump maps, he was an absolute beast. He was a tank. The biggest thing that was always a problem with Sane, and this isn't just a Sane problem, you could probably say this is a problem with many competitors, the biggest problem with Sane is he struggled to adapt to the time limits. Stage 1 and stage 2, I think he knows there's a time limit, so he knows he has to go at a reasonable pace. And Sane's not the kind of guy that handles having to rush. He's not necessarily rushing, but having to do something within a time limit. And I think that's part of the reason why he hasn't had the amount of success that he... that's the reason why he hasn't had as much success as he could have had on jump courses. But when he does have that success, i.e. getting to a stage 3... it's produced phenomenal performances on my course, and just the fact that he went from clearing stage 1 once to getting to the last obstacle, stage 3, getting first place in a period or an era of my course where Smokey was starting to just take over. yeah, I just have nothing but huge love
It's
to that run when I think back on it.
it's so interesting because we both think about Sane the exact same way, but the way we came up with it on this list is so different. I have Sane 10,
Oh,
and that's
Oh,
because
spoiler alert.
back then, that doesn't shock me with Sane. If he came in
yeah,
first today, it would shock me. Back then, Sane was making the hardest jump maps, was one of the best jumpers, and it wouldn't have shocked me because I'm trying to think of how I thought of Sane back then versus now, right? Like you said, Halo 5, Halo Infinite, not really the same.
I think you look at the first Halo 4 tournament, in which only 6 people cleared. Obviously, Sane didn't do well on stage 2, but, like, you know, Sane was one of the top 6. He finished tied for 5th in that tournament. Like, there were some really good competitors in that tournament that did not clear, and, like, you know, for him to come out in his first tournament and clear at that point, like, you could definitely tell that Sane had some potential. And obviously, it took him a little bit to finally find it, and then tournament 15 came around and he really did it. To be honest with you, I think he's definitely a tough one to rank because, you know, like I said, I wasn't around back then to really see.
He
how
really
good
is a
was.
tough one to rank.
But I mean,
like you said, yeah.
To me, when you have a run like you did on tournament 10, where you clear a really tough stage 1 and you're one of, you know, the top 5 top 5 in ties, even with failing the first obstacle, like, obviously you have to have some level of talent. Obviously he, you know, stepped it up to another level, but I think based on what you guys are saying, he had shown it based on his preparation and the way he had done other things that he could have done it, and then that was kind of the tournament.
Well, and
where he
that's
did
it.
So.
My ranking for Sane is based on not tournament courses, but just basic jump courses.
Yeah. Which sounds similar to, like, some of the other people I was talking about earlier with, like, you know, noodles and stuff like that, where it's just like, you know, the difference between being a good jumper and being a good competitor on a Ninja Warrior course is it's definitely a hard thing to kind of compare and contrast.
right. That brings us to 3 more names. I guess we got to go with ROG, Tournament 21. Was this a run that I know Snoz was there for his final stage run?
I was not here for this run.
You were not
Yeah, I was there. I was there.
Did you? How long did it take for you to find out about that run, Rish?
I believe it took me about a year after, so it was it was close to. It would have been roughly around when 22 was or well, I think it would have been maybe a year-ish, so maybe slightly after 22 recorded. At that point, he had hosted 17 tournaments.
Right. So he was really known more as a tournament host than a top tier jumper at that point.
17 tournaments hosted, and in that time as a competitor, he'd had one good run on Smokey's course when he got to stage 3, but he hadn't had any stage 1 clears. He did pretty well on his newcomer appearance, but a first obstacle fail on my course.
Back then, I thought of ROG more as a tournament host that just did the courses. Like, today, ROG's broke out, right, on Infinite. ROG's, like, fantastic jumper right now. Yeah. But back, like you're saying, Hunter, back then, yeah, I thought of him more as just a guy who hosts tournaments that also runs the courses. Yeah. That's what I thought of him as. Yeah, and totally.
Yeah. For a guy like him to get his first stage 1 clear and then get all the way to the final stage, yeah, it was just mad. I could not believe what I was witnessing as the host recording the runs. Not so much like on stage 1 or stage 2 or anything like that. At that point, I just thought, oh my god, this is a great breakout performance from ROG. Super awesome job. And then his first run on stage 3, he fails the globe grasp. So I thought, okay, he was worried about that obstacle. You know, he could be going out here, but it's still a great tournament. And then his second attempt, he beats the globe grasp. He gets past the devil steps. He gets past the cliffhanger, which only 2 people had beaten up to that point. And then he beats another obstacle. And then he beats another obstacle. And then he beats another obstacle, and then before you know, he's on the final stage, and then he's on the finish line, screaming his heart out at how happy he is, and I could not believe it.
I guess in full transparency here from my end, when I started this, I penciled Rog in at number 1. I think these are the 3 for me. Like these are like a tier above. Like, and what held me back is the run he did have on Smokies, where he got to stage 3 and got second place. Like that should have been, I guess, to me and maybe other people, a sign of like Rog can do it. If he puts a run together, Rog has the talent to do it. Nobody had any expectation of Rog getting to a final stage in that tournament. That said, he showed he could have potentially done it on Smoky scores, and I think that, to me, is what differentiated it between the other two, from my list perspective.
I just realised we've been saying all of this, and we haven't even talked about his actual attempt at the final stage, which was he's either never seen that tower before, or he's seen it once as a spectator, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And he gets to the last pole, and he gets within 2 jumps. He ran out of time, obviously, so he wouldn't have won, but he got within 2 jumps of getting to the top of the tower.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me too, like, not to peel back the curtain too far, but like, having been present for some final stages on your course, like it is a different level of pressure getting to a 100-unit final stage where you put them on the tower, okay? Like, you show them the tower, there's no practice, and there's a lot of getting shots and doing interviews and other things that you kind of have to mentally keep yourself locked in for. And I mean, and for him to do as well as he did, first time attempting a final stage, first time attempting that tower, again, yeah, like you said, I probably could have maybe factored in that final stage run a little bit more, because it was extremely impressive. He almost did it. At the same time, though, like we said, just comparing the first 3 stages, that's kind of where I differentiated Snoz and Jop.
You know what? I was going to say, let's do it at the end, but I'm going to take a huge gamble here and assume I can probably guess Snoz's top 2 names on this list. So,
well,
Snoz,
I'm not going to spend a lot of time. Why don't I just kind of go through them and get caught up with you guys then?
For starters, let me just confirm. Have you put yourself and Job as the top 2?
No.
Oh.
Whoa.
Okay then. Okay, well then, let's hear the list and let's.
Okay, so I have Sane at 10 for the reasons I explained, and then because I don't really know, and it's kind of funny because this is where you had them. I had then BJ, then Noodles, then Urban, 987.
BJM Noodles, yep.
And I have Joey 6, which I think is appropriate based on the rest of the names and what they did. I then have Tricky 5. I have Sunny 4. And then 3, I have Job. Rog, I mean, that was just so impressive. Not expected.
Rog number 1?
He's my number 2. I'm number 1 because I'm the worst jumper on this list.
This is number 1.
I'm the most improbable person to even get to stage 3, let alone get to stage 4. So but that's the thing. This isn't bragging, right? By any means, it's the opposite. I'm the worst jumper on this top 10 list, in my opinion. And so I'd never beaten a stage 1. No one was more shocked than me, so I didn't have the confidence that I was going to clear these stages. It just kind of happened.
Sure.
And the reason I don't have Jop in front of me, even though Jop got total victory, is, and this is unfair for, like, Irish wouldn't know this, but when we were practicing for Tournament 9, it was me, Jop, and Go Tanks all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And Hunter can attest, we knew how good a jumper Jop was.
Jop was on similar levels to Buddy, I think, in terms of maybe not as good, but like a little below that.
Yeah, but
like
maybe getting the stage 4 victory was like a little wow, but him getting to stage 4 wasn't a huge shock because I'm going to be honest, in practice, we were clearing stage 3 all the time.
Yeah.
And it was a different type of challenge than it is today. I could practice today's stage 3 as much as I want. I ain't clearing it. But I'm not surprised he gets to stage 4, especially when I do, and he's a better jumper than me. So that's pretty much the thought there.
I considered them kind of, obviously they both had very surprising runs for them to get to the final stage. Jop to win definitely elevates it a little bit. But Job had shown signs in his first 2 appearances he had done pretty well. Like, he had a stage 1 clear in those 2 tournaments. Obviously, it kind of sucks he disappeared, but like, he showed he was a really good jumper when he was around. So like, he to me had at least some level of being able to do good things. I don't think a total victory was really on the horizon for people. So when you really kind of look at it, like, he's probably the most surprising total victory that we've.
For a minute for
Yes,
but based on what you said, I would just say this really fast, and then I'll let you finish and Hunter go.
Good.
It's the same thing with Sane. Job was making all the crazy jump maps back then, 10 seconds to jump, just all this stuff. So him doing good wasn't as big a shock as it could have been. Just like Sane, he was so good at tough jump maps, it just didn't shock me the way it could have if I'd only seen him in tournaments and nothing else, right?
You know, in comparison to the number 1 here with our pal Snoz, like, Snoz had no signs at that time with his 2 previous runs of being someone that could, get to a stage 3 or a final stage, and sure enough, Snoz put in the work and pulled it off. And kind of like what, Snoz was saying, the fact that Snoz has not, like, you think about the amount of tournaments that Snoz has practiced for and done reasonably well on, and he's not had another stage 3 since that tournament 9 run, and he converted it into a final stage. It shows how kind of spectacular that run really was. Like, there's definitely people, like, and some of these kids anymore are so good, they don't really understand, like, how it's like for people like me that aren't as talented, that get very few stage 3s. Like, the difference between expecting a stage 3 and then actually getting it. Like, for someone like Snoz to get to his first ever stage 3 and get to a final stage and do it the way he did, and then now he's still searching for that second one, it kind of really puts into perspective how, like, insane that run really is. Like, for everything to go the way it went for Snoz.
I think the only thing that put Jop number 1 on my list, aside from the fact of the obvious that it's the only run on this list that ended up with a total victory, I obviously didn't account for, like, outside factors, i.e. the fact that Jop was a fantastic Halo player, Sane was a fantastic Halo player. I just judged it based on the results. And didn't, downgrade because of that. Again, Jop winning, for me, was as big of a surprise as Buddy winning. And the fact that, although Jop obviously had a great first tournament after winning in Tournament 10, the fact that he then only had one more run and then disappeared, because we've talked about it, I think, on another Top 10 or a quiz or something, or a podcast or whatever, on this channel. Go check it out. We've talked about we've talked about the fact that Jop really wasn't that into jumping, and I think in his mind it was kind of one of those where once he won, there wasn't really anything else to achieve. In some ways, it elevates his success even more, because now you've got a guy that, if you go on his wiki page, he's got 5 appearances, and one of those is a total victory, and that makes him one of only 3 people ever to have done it, and it's a guy that only rocked up and did 5 tournaments. So I think that just kind of makes it, in some ways, makes it even more surprising. On the Snoz thing, I think maybe I've done him a little disservice by only putting him at 4. I definitely could have put him certainly in the top 3, but something that's actually only just now popped into my head, I don't think I can think of any course, like, not just the big 3, just any course. I don't think I can think of any other competitor that's put in a performance that you could almost say is comparable to Snoz. Like, oh, you just pulled a Snoz. Like, you cleared stage 1 and then got to stage 4.
And that can't happen. That can't happen today, right? The stage 3s today are just too intricate, too difficult. That's just what I got away with. We'll call it getting away with, okay? That isn't happening today.
I'm just going to throw it out there. Here's a hot take in Halo jumping history. Snoz's run in Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 9 is a performance that will never be repeated again by anyone, where they just clear stage 1 for the first time, get to the final stage, and then never do anything like never get to stage 3 again, let's say. I'm saying that's never happening ever again.
No, I agree with that.
On any course. But I've put so much praise on it that it actually wraps things up very nicely, because majority rules, I put Jop at number 1, but Irish and Snoz both put Snoz's Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 9 at number 1. So 2 beats 1. Snoz is the winner of this episode of the Top 10.
I mean,
Top
with the exception
10 surprise
of
successes.
with the exception of me and you as sane, I feel like we're all really close.
Yeah,
With our
we're
picks.
on the same page with a lot of it. So really, other than Sane, I feel like we're all on a really similar wavelength with
Yeah.
the whole thing. So.
And whilst the three of us have been saying all that, you guys on the screen will have been seeing all 3 of our lists again, and will now be seeing the attempt, or at least my attempt, at combining the 3 lists together to figure out who actually ranked where, based on combining all 3 of our picks together.
And this is where
Obviously.
we say, if you feel differently, leave your list in the comments.
Yes, yes.
You'll probably
what?
be wrong, but feel free. It's good for Hunter's engagement and boosts his analytics.
So, that brings us to the end of another Top 10. This has been very insightful, I think is the word I will use. The amount of detail that we've gone into with a lot of these runs, actually, in terms of getting background and context and things like that, from a wide variety of different jumpers throughout jumping history, from Halo 4 all the way through to Halo 5. So yeah, I guess we'll just say thanks to Irish and Snoz for being here today, and we will see myself and Snoz back again very soon for the next Top 10, which, well, you guys will have to come back to find out what is going down. But until then, goodbye, guys.
I didn't say I've been Hunter Unit 751. Darn.
I've been Hunter Unit 751. Goodbye.
Yep. There you go. Now we're talking. That's an outro.